I get to be here at the Sandy office of Craig Swap and Associates with the man himself, personal injury attorney Craig Swap. Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you, Amanda.
Great to see you. Now, I wonder, I've been doing a lot of road trips. I know a lot of my friends have been doing the same because we got to get out and explore Utah on the weekends.
It's that time of year.
But now that I have a child, it's a little different than when I was in college and like loaded up the girlfriends. Now I kind of care about my car safety. Is that weird? Does that happen when you have kids?
That happens to everybody, Amanda.
So I guess I'm wondering what could go wrong? What could go wrong on the road when you're out with your family on a road trip?
Oh, there's lots of things that could go wrong. You know, the interesting thing about here in Utah is that between, is it Memorial Day and Labor Day, they call it the deadliest days, 100 deadliest days here.
Oh my gosh, so it's a huge problem.
Yeah, it is.
In the summertime.
And I think a lot of it is because there's just so many more cars on the road going out to do fun.
Of those just 2-lane highways,
Yep.
people passing each other, and when they're packed, the risk goes up. So what about with our vehicles themselves? What's the risk there? What should I look for before I strap my kid into the car seat?
Well, I think one of the biggest things we do is just make sure that they're well maintained. You know, a lot of the accidents we see, people's tires blow out on them, or they have some sort of mechanical issue. It's not a good idea to go long distances with an old car that hasn't been maintained well.
Really?
And so that's probably the thing that worries me about sending my daughters off, is that I want to make sure the car can go from point A to point B and not stop. And so that's one of the things that we see a lot. The other thing too, Amanda, is kids, they can be so distracting. I remember going to St. George one time, and our youngest, who's now 20, she was miserable for the entire ride. It took us 8 hours to get from Salt Lake to St. George because of the snow.
Oh my goodness.
And so that can be distracting if you're not really careful.
Absolutely. My son's at the age where he can unhook his own car seat, so we've had to pull over several times because of that. Now, when we're talking about car malfunctions, we want to have a newer car. How new are we talking?
Well, studies say that cars that are over 10 years old are more than twice as likely to have something go wrong on a long road trip.
So have it checked maybe before you go, or maybe rent a newer car. That is fascinating.
Yeah, renting a car is not a bad idea if you can afford it. But really the thing you worry about is just probably falling asleep, you're staying up late. If I remember the things we used to do, and it wasn't a smart move, but most of the accidents we see is someone will fall asleep and they cross that double yellow line on a 2-lane highway. Those don't usually end well.
My goodness.
And I think you just have to kind of prepare mentally for those trips to Disneyland or wherever you're going to take your Moab.
Those long hauls, yeah. And I know we kind of like to leave in the middle of the night when the kids are asleep, and that's not a distraction. But then we need to be sure we can stay awake. So maybe little breaks throughout the trip. And
it's recommended that you have breaks every couple of hours from the authorities, and it really never hurts. I mean, you'd rather be there safely than get there a half hour early or not get there at all.
It's so true. Okay, good things to remember. I will definitely check my car before I leave. Also make sure I have like a route planned out with fun little stops so I stay awake. Anything else we should know besides where to find you?
Well, it'd be probably a good idea for you to let others know where you're going and when you're going to be back, just so that they can keep an eye out if something does happen.
I love that, the buddy system.
Yep.
Okay, Craig Swap, thank you so much. And where do people go to make an appointment with you or come see you?
CraigSwap.com or 800-404-9000.